We've got a great guy coming up at 10:15. I'm excited. Yeah, he's the man. He's the man. If you ever had a vision and it never came to pass, all right, a lot of us have dreams, aspirations, and sometimes we just fall short. Well, why is that? Maybe that there's something we can tap into, or a person that we can tap into that will help us dig deep to figure out what's going on with us, right? Because we can accomplish almost anything. There's a lot that we can accomplish. We have more power than we know. And so sometimes we just need people to help bring that out of us, to help organize things, to help organize our thoughts, to help us see what's possible. And this gentleman is somebody who can make that happen. I'm a big fan of his. I was up early one morning, before the sun came up, and I looked and I got a live notification on Facebook, and here he is. I'm talking about shirt, tie. I mean, the sun's not even up yet, and he's just on there giving all this inspiration. And many of us who follow him have just really been enlightened and inspired by words. And I'm very happy to have him on the show. And again, his name is Mr. Thomas Taylor III. And he is just getting ready he's backstage, and he's getting ready to come on this stage and bless us with some of his insights and his guidance. Time to bring in my man, Mr. Thomas Taylor, the man, the myth, the guy who's become a legend. Mr. Thomas Taylor, Mr. Thomas Taylor. Sir, how are you doing?
Sir, simply marvelous. Better than good and better than most. It's great to be here, sir. It's great to be here.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Man, I've tried to blow you up, man, because you've really blessed me and a lot of other people. We really enjoy watching your Facebook lives. I think you do this 3 times a week?
Yeah, 2 times? Sundays in the morning, Sunday mornings, Tuesdays, and Thursdays for the whole month of February.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, we're gonna talk about after February, so you can't get us hooked. And then, I see what you're going. I know what you're gonna do. You're gonna say, "Well, I'll talk to you, but we gotta subscribe."
Nah, I will always give free content. Sir.
Okay. All right. So tell everybody who don't know you a little bit about your background and what you do.
Okay. Good afternoon. Good morning. My name is Thomas Taylor III. Live in Atlanta, Georgia. My background is in telecommunications, been in telecom for the last 25 plus years. Been married for over 25 years. Actually been with my wife for over 35 years. We have 2 lovely kids, son Darian, he'll be 24 this year, and a young lady, Monasia, she will be 21 years of age this year. I'm certified personal life coach, as well as a vision coach. Been doing that for many years. Actually decided to do some monetization with that, as well as I started a nonprofit organization called Grown Up Without a Father, based upon my personal story dealing with growing up without a father. So it's just a little bit about myself.
Okay. So, I want to talk to you a little bit about, before you get into the vision coaching aspect, which I know that, ties right into us having using the power of disruption to change our lives. Mm-hmm. I also want to talk about that growing up without a father, because I think that is phenomenal. And I think a lot of when we talked previously,
oh yeah,
that affects a lot of men. So just tell us a little bit about how you got to the point where you started a nonprofit called Growing Up Without a Father.
Yeah, it definitely does. Growing up, I grew up in New York, and grew up without a father. But it was almost like a so what, because there's so many people who grew up without a father. You know what I mean? And if you did have a father, you was almost like anomaly. You was the minority. You wasn't the majority. So going through life, like not having a father, kind of really didn't impact me. It didn't affect me until I got a little older, and then I had a family, and especially when I had a son. Because for me personally, what happened was the name that I grew up with was Thomas Searles, right?
Mm.
Coming all through high school, all through life, up until 38 years of age. Well, I only met my father one time, Steve. One time I met him, man.
Wow.
And then I reconnected with him 20 years later to find out that ultimately his name was Thomas Taylor Jr. I never
Mm.
knew that, right? So I found that out. And then I ultimately, you know, decided that I did not want to continuously perpetuate a lie, right? And so I researched lineage, I researched names and things of that nature, and decided to change my name because I was my father's firstborn son. So I changed my name to Thomas Taylor III, Steve. And
Mm.
oh my goodness, man, it was one of the toughest things that I ever did in my life. And that was in 2005. And I felt that I was okay. But then I started conversing with different people, man, and I found out that this issue is large, but nobody's talking about it though.
Yeah.
Right. So then in 2012, I actually decided to start a nonprofit organization called Growing Up Without a Father. It's growingupwithoutafather.org. And I just decided to start it on the website. And on the website, I got people from all over the world. I mean, South Africa, Afghanistan, Denmark, New Zealand, China, who sit behind their computer in a non-threatening environment and just talk about how growing up without a father actually makes them feel. So
Mm.
much so, Stephen, that I have one book already written that's not published, but I'm also working on another book, right? Just to tell my story. And if you don't mind, I'm gonna share a little bit of that with your audience. Do you mind?
No, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
It's entitled The 7 Steps in Discerning the Power in Your Name.
Mm.
And I just want to share, and I hope I can get through it. When I actually reconnected with my father, I'll never forget the day when I met my father for the very first time. It was a bright sunny day in May 1985. My cousin and I were driving around and just hanging out. My mother had called my father and told him that I was going to come by his job and see him. When Anthony and I got to his job, I picked up the phone and they said, I'm here. And I said, I'm here to see Thomas Taylor. They said, okay, he'll be out shortly. I waited for about 10 minutes or so, and lo and behold, this man walks out and says, hello, I'm Thomas. I said, hello, I'm Thomas. It was almost a surreal moment. Like, I know this is happening, but at some time, I can't believe that this is happening. At the same time, I can't believe this is happening. He asked me how I was doing. I told him that I was well and about to graduate from high school. He said he was proud of me. We spoke some more about the prom. He gave me a few $100s. I said thank you. Myself and my cousin got into my cousin's gold Camaro, and it was like we just rode off into the sunset. When I returned home, my mother asked me, how did it go? I told her it was fine, that we met and spoke for a little while, and he gave me some money, and then we left. Now, reading this, you might ask yourself, is that it? Why didn't you ask some questions like, why wasn't you in my life? And where you been for the last 18 years? Or why didn't you
Mm.
call me? I promise you, none of those questions ever ran across my mind. You see, when I was 18 years of age, I was pretty mature and had processed in my mind already that those questions really were for my mother to ask,
Mm.
even though I had the right to ask them.
Mm-hmm.
I was never emotionally tied to my father not being in my life. My philosophy was it's hard to miss something that you never had.
Mm.
At 18 years of age, I had already learned lessons that most young men learn in their mid-20s. My mindset has always been to focus on the future and not dwell in the past, because the greatest pull from the universe is the pull in the future. As we live our lives and take time to reflect on how we became the person we are today, we realize that there are significant dates and days and milestones. The day I met my father for the very first time was significant in more ways than one. You see, that meeting actually changed the course of my future.
Mm.
Mm.
Okay. Wow.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes,
man.
sir.
You know, that gets me to thinking about there's so much wrapped up into a young man growing up and not having that access to an older, wiser male father
Yes, sir.
figure to help guide him. It just makes it just a little bit harder for that young man to succeed sometimes, right?
Yeah, no
Not
question.
always, but sometimes, we find that a young man needs a role model. He needs somebody to help guide
Mhm.
him.
Yes, sir.
And so the fact that you started an organization to help those young men, to me, is disruptive,
Yeah, no question. No
right?
question.
Because we all know the young lady who's out there doing the best she can trying to raise her kid
Hmm.
without her having a father for that child. And so here is a person like yourself who went through an experience, turn that into something so positive
Yeah.
and so life affirming and life changing for people who did not, you know, even know that it was, sometimes you're going, you don't even know that it's affecting you,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Exactly.
So how would you suggest that people can look inside, because a lot of people are trying to find business ideas. What should I do? And I know you've had a talk about purpose,
Yes.
but what can you tell people that they should do if they're trying to find their purpose, trying to find that one business idea or life work that they should involve themselves in? What advice would you have for somebody like that?
Yeah, well, my suggestion would be to look inward, right? To be introspective versus looking outside for that thing that you think is your destiny or your purpose. And I was once told that sometimes your purpose is birthed out of your pain. Let me say that again. Sometimes your purpose in life is birthed out of your pain. Why? I read a book called The Purpose Driven Life by Rick Warren. And if you open that book, Stephen, and if you turn to page 17, the first thing on that page, it says, it's not about you. And sometimes we look for that outside of us because we think that we're not enough. And if you grew up without a father, or even if you grew up without a mother, there could be some separation anxieties, right? Or some self-esteem challenges, or things where you may not feel that you're good enough. So you're constantly living your life looking for that thing, or even looking for that person, not realizing that the person that you're looking for is actually in the mirror. Why?
Mm,
Because we have everything that we need, right? But sometimes when there's a deficiency, they come out in vices, right? Alcohol, sex, drugs, crime, right? And sometimes those are just scenarios where they're crying out for help. Why? Because they didn't have something, right? And it's just as simple and easy as this, right? And this is when I have conversations with people, I ask them this simple question, Steve. I say, if you grew up without a father, even if you grew up without a mother, how did it make you feel?
mm,
Why? Because it's just that simple. We live our lives and we govern our lives on a feeling, right? We're on this show right now, Disruptors, because this is what we felt like doing. Right? I applaud you because you felt like it was necessary to have a conference, right? In the midst of a pandemic, right? To have a conference to talk about disruptors that's going on, right? Because it was a feeling that you had. So if you think about that, if we had negative feelings, if we had negative connotations about our upbringing, if you look back at your life, sometimes your relationships and things that you've been involved with, you've done out of negative emotions, negative feelings. And then you find yourself in a situation where you never thought you would be in. But when you start to connect the dots and you start to trace it back, it goes all the way back to that for some people, that time when the man that was supposed to edify you, right? He was supposed to protect you, right? He made a different decision than you. And you know what he told you? That he was going to come pick you up. And you was 3 or 6 years old, and you was waiting on a step, waiting for him to come. And guess what, Stephen? He never came. He never showed up. So now you're 30 years old, you're 40-something years old, you're 50 years old. And if I ask the question, how did it make you feel? It'll take 2 seconds and you go right back to when you were sitting on that step, waiting for him to come. But now you're a grown man or you're a grown woman with a family, with kids looking at you. They wasn't there on the step with you, but they're looking at you to be their provider, to be their protector. And you can't get out your own way because you're still there. The hurt, the pain, the disappointment. Why? Because that man was supposed to edify you. You're strong. You're beautiful. You could do whatever it is that you put your mind to. But again, because he made a different decision, now our lives are in turmoil. Well, I became a disruptor, Steve, when I made a decision, including with my wife. She challenged me to go find my father before I actually changed my name. But I made that decision because you know what I didn't want? I didn't want my son to have to grow up perpetuating a lie. Because the name that was attached to him, it had no origin. It had no lineage. There was nothing. If he ever did a book report, empty, dead end, because it didn't belong to him. And I made a conscious decision to be a disruptor. And I said, if I don't change this, it doesn't get changed. Nothing happens, right? And now, mind you, I'm 38 years of age. I'm not 15. I'm not 16. I'm a grown man with a family, house, car, life insurance, medical, the whole gamut. But I made a decision. And for some, it wasn't a popular decision. Why? Because on the other side of that, I reconnected with my brothers and sisters on my father's side that I never met before. So here it is. I got 2 sisters and a brother that they don't know me. I don't know them. But now I'm injected in their life.
So, you know, that just really shows that when you follow what's inside of your heart, because like you said, it wasn't a popular decision, right? But when you get something that's inside of your heart and you act on it and move on it with confidence and boldness,
yes, sir.
Usually that's where you find some sweetness, some success, right? And so as we transition to talk about your vision coaching,
yes, sir.
How has your mentality, the way that you think, the way that you're able to just make a decision even when it's not popular, how do you think that positions you to be able to help people accomplish their goals and dreams?
Yeah, great question. Great question. And I'm about, if you understand just simple construction, buildings, right? So if you ever go to a big metropolitan city and they're building a building, do you know what determines how high that building is going to go? What determines that is how deep they dig a hole. The depthness of that building, of that hole, will determine how high they will erect that building. So what does that mean? Why did I say that? Because if you don't build your foundation on something solid, when you start to build your edifice, it's going to crumble if it's built on sand. And what I mean by that, if it's built on emotions that's not solid, if it's not built on factual information. So one of those things that I utilize to build a solid foundation is one of my favorite scriptures is Hebrews 11:1. And it says, now faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. So what are you believing in that you can't see? Why? Because they say vision has nothing to do with sight. So in order to have vision, in order to build a solid foundation, a solid edifice, you have to have something that's larger, that's bigger than yourself to pull from, right? From a universal standpoint, right? And when you understand that, now you start to realize two things. One, that it's not about you. And then two, that there's something higher that can pull you, right? That can stretch you. So when you're talking about vision, you talked about Bitcoin earlier. You talked about you wish you would have get involved with it early on. I mean, we could go down the road. We could go to Facebook. We could go talk about Apple. There's a lot of different companies out there that these individuals had vision. Well, in order to have that, they had to have started with a solid foundation, right? So that's kind of the first thing with vision coaching is, okay, where do you see yourself, right? What do you want to do in life? How do you want to get there? Right before you make one move, because sometimes we kind of move and then we try to figure it out. Well, when you have vision, you can see it before it happens. For example, we lived in New York. We moved here in Atlanta, Georgia in 1999. In 1998, I had a vision. I had a vision of living in a house in a cul-de-sac. I told my wife that. She's like, well, my wife's from the Bronx. She's like, cul-de-sac? What's a cul-de-sac? I was like, it's one way in and one way out, right? And I had the vision to live right in the corner. And you might say, why? Because if you live in the corner, your land will go out like this. If you live along the street, it'll be cut in a square section. That was 98, Stephen. Fast forward, 2000, we had a house built on a cul-de-sac right in the corner. That was 21 years ago. We still in the house today. But it was a vision that I saw in 98. Because of what I'm telling you, what I'm sharing with you is like you have to go and become introspective, right? And get quiet. So part of that is prayer and meditation. So for me, first thing in the morning, I pray and I meditate. I slow everything down and I just meditate and I get clear, right? Because there's so much clutter that's going on here. Like everybody's moving so fast. Everybody going, moving. So I slow down and I just meditate. I just open my mind, right? So when I do my Facebook lives, you know, like my wife's like, what are you talking about tomorrow? I said, I don't know. The spirit didn't tell me yet. I don't know yet. Right? I can wake up 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, and it'll hit me. And then I put it all together because I slow my mind down to get reconnected and refocused. Right. So
wow. And the answer is right there. It reminds me of that Bruce Leroy in The Last Dragon. He was trying to find the master, and it was like everything he needs is right there within, right?
right
I mean,
there.
to make it more comical. That's it. I didn't say it as eloquently as what you said.
No, but you got a point. And you know what one of those great movies are from the 70s? It's The Wiz. Diana Ross, Michael Jackson, Scarecrow. It's The Wiz. Right? When you really kind of pull back at the end, they went to see The Wiz, and once they pulled behind the curtain, they realized that he's a farce. Like, we did all this to get to this wizard, Richard Pryor, and he's not sure who he is. Just to realize that all those things that they was in search of, it was already inside of you. Yeah. That's The Wiz. It was already inside of you.
Yeah.
I could go on and on. I could go on and on.
Oh, wow. So what I want to do is if there's anybody out there who has any questions as we wrap up the conversation, feel free to type a question. Again, we're on Facebook, we're on Periscope, we're on YouTube, and we're also on BBL TV. So if you have a question for Mr. Taylor, if you have, if you're somewhere where you're stuck in business or stuck in your personal life, and you just can't seem to achieve what it is that you set your sights on, now's a good chance, a good opportunity to speak with someone who might be able to give you that good nugget. So if you have any questions, feel free to send us a message, and I'll bring it up on screen, and we can discuss that. But so how do people actually, is this a practice where, we can contact you and you can help us, cast a vision and then try to make that a vision a reality?
Yeah, you can reach me on Facebook, Thomas Taylor III. Dash, you can do, I got also dash Taylor Your Dreams, TaylorYourDreams.com. Yeah, Taylor Your Dreams. That's the name of the company. The website's not up yet, but it'll be TaylorYourDreams.com. You can reach me on Instagram, Thomas Taylor III, as well as Facebook. We talked about that. You can reach me. If you want to talk, just send me a direct message. I'll send you my calendar, and then we could talk, one-on-one. I also have a YouTube channel. It's out there. I haven't really done a lot with it. So all of my Facebook Lives, I actually have them on my YouTube channel. That's Thomas Taylor III, Taylor Your Dreams, YouTube. You can subscribe to that. That's where I'm going to put all of my content, so people just, look at the content for free.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, I mean, yeah, I think that I wanted to bring you on because I know personally, I realized that I should have been like a multimillionaire many times over. And the only thing that was in my way was me.
Ooh, okay.
Right? The way that I think. So if we can bring on people like you that can help us kind of shake the cobwebs loose, sometimes that's all we need. Because everything else is there. Capital. Somebody told me one time that there is no shortage of capital. And I didn't understand that statement. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm short of capital every single day. What do you mean there's no shortage of capital? I didn't understand that one, my brother. But really, there is not. And if you know how to come up with a business plan, come up with a business model, and structure it properly, and present it to the right people, any good idea can be funded, right? Or if you've, conducted yourself in a particular kind of way, you might be able to fund it yourself because you have excellent stellar credit. So it's these things that just blocks a lot of us from success. And a lot of times it's just those little mental things we need to tweak. So that's why it's important. And we want you to be a part of our family because we need practitioners like you to help us get out of our own way. Right. So thank you so much for participating in the conference.
And I want to speak to that real quick. And that's something that, that's a good point that you mentioned. And I did research. And if you study the great people that we kind of consider great, if you study the Michael Jordans, the Tiger Woods, Oprah Winfrey, even Venus and Serena Williams, there's one thing that all of them have in common. You know what that is, Steve?
What's that?
That's a coach. That is a coach. If you think about Serena and Venus, who was their first coach?
Their dad.
Their father, their dad. Exactly. To a point where he realized that he couldn't coach them anymore on their level that they were on. So what did he do? He hired another coach. If you look at any of their matches, who does the camera go to in the box? Their coach. Right? Yeah. Michael Jordan had a coach. Tiger Woods has a coach. Oprah Winfrey has a coach. But for some reason, we think that we can get to those higher elevations in life without a coach.
Yeah.
Why? Because nobody typically in our circle has one, right?
Yeah.
It's not popular, right? It's
Mhm.
almost like us going to a psychiatrist. It's not popular, right? But it's necessary. So again, this is what I did in my meditation, right? I looked at Matthew 7, 7, and 8. I asked, I seeked, and I knocked. Because I knew, Steve, that I needed somebody to pull out of me what I had inside of me, right? That's when I personally connected with my coach, Mr. Sean Rice. He's my coach. And he's connected with Eric Thomas, the #1 motivational speaker in the world. Right. But I knew and I understood that because I knew I had it in me, but for some reason I could not get it out of me. Right.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, I raised my hand. I said, yep. I prayed, I meditated, and he came into my reality. And I said, yep, this is what I need. And it's because of him. He challenged myself in my class to go live starting in February. He challenged us to get out of our own way and put the world on notice, right?
Yeah.
If you say you do a certain thing, let the world know, right? I was on a coaching class this morning at 8 o'clock. Since 8 o'clock, I just got off at like 9:45.
The coach is getting coached.
Yeah,
Even the coach has a coach.
Yes, no question.
Right.
No question. If you want to reach those higher elevations in life, now everybody don't get it wrong. Everybody doesn't. Why? Because some people say that they're hungry, and I'm sure they're hungry, but when it's time to hunt, they may not be ready to hunt. It don't mean that they're not hungry. It just means they want somebody to bring back the food to them. See, that's a difference, right? If you really want what you say you want, if you really want to hunt, then I would recommend get a coach to help you hunt. But for how long? You got to understand, right? A coach pulls you. Look at Venus and Serena, right? They're constantly getting better, but they on the grand stage, right? So the coaching is a little bit different, right? My coach is like, hey, do what I do, what I tell you, to the point where now you're the coach. Now you still plug in, but you need me less now.
Yeah.
Because you created that momentum. You got it. Next thing you know, you're doing 5 figures, doing 6 figures, and this is monthly, right? This is monthly. Why? Because you got some momentum, right? You still plug in, but you don't need them as much. That's the significance of a coach. And some of us, we miss that. We think, nah, I'm good. Oh, it's too much. Okay, well, how much is too much, right? If you had a coach back and you're like, okay, this is what I suggest that you invest in Bitcoin, right? You would have listened. Because you would have listened. No question, hands down. But we just think we could do it ourselves, man. So that's the benefit of a coach.
I'm trying to tell you, man. Sir. Well, yeah. Okay. Well, I think I found me a coach. I don't know about y'all, but
it's necessary. It's necessary. A lot of us don't think so, but I promise you, if you actually sit down with anybody who achieved higher heights in life, I guarantee you they had a coach, man. I guarantee you.
Wow. Well, thank you. We got Mr. Thomas Taylor III. He blessed us today on the BBL Disruptors Conference stage, and we really appreciate you. And I'm sure, hopefully, this will not be the last, and we can have you as a regular contributor to our platform. We've got, again, over about 1,400 businesses in our platform, and we're excited to become closer and stronger as a family as we support one another. I know you maybe aren't able to see this comment, but we had a comment come through on the back end of our conference, and somebody, Dimitri St. Pierre, the gentleman that I spoke to earlier, said, "Great point on needing a coach." So he's listening. People are listening. All right. So that's what it's all about. So I just wanted to let you know that your words are definitely having an impact on our members, and I appreciate that. So everyone, this is Thomas Taylor III. Again, tailor your dreams. He's a vision coach and all around great guy. Somebody that can help take your take your personal and your business life to the next level. So thank you, Mr. Taylor. We appreciate you, and stick around if you can. And also you can go into the back end and have a breakout session if you want. If there are people there who might want to converse with you, they can do that backstage. Cool. Okay, that's for people who have tickets to the conference. All right.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.